I'm here with Kyle Doyon. We are at Cape Coral, Southwest Florida. I'm a very interesting manufacturer. I think you're gonna enjoy the show. Hi, Kyle. It's really nice to have you on the show. They're making Florida. Kyle is also a member of SRMA, our manufacturing association in Southwest Florida. So how about you start to introduce yourself and just tell us a little about, Recycled Firefighter, how you got into that, and, what's your story?
So manufacturing is not my background or my past at all. For me, it was a real estate developer. Been in that for about third generation, realistically, real estate and brokerage and all that stuff. So a year and a half ago, a buddy of mine, Jake, who owned Recycled Firefighter, was talking about selling the company. And from the 20 years of search and rescue that I had done too, it really kind of struck a nerve with me that it was great products, the EDC community that I really like, the backpacks and gear and wallets and all the different things that are made. So in helping him and going back and forth on how he should structure the company, in the end, I said, I'd really be interested in buying this. It's set up really easy right now. You got manufacturing in Georgia and Texas. You got distribution in Kentucky. Like, this is going to be easy and a complete win, and I can kick back and watch it grow and just, pump in the extra stuff when it's needed. Then bought the company.
Were you already in Florida back then?
I was living here in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jake also lived in Florida, and he did a lot of the essentially R&D work out of his garage and some of the manufacturing out of there, but then a lot of it was done in Georgia and Texas, and then everything got shipped to Kentucky for them to do their distribution. And during that first months of really digging in, we realized that the distribution company had 900 back orders. The manufacturer in Georgia hadn't been manufacturing for a while and was actually pulling the plug and saying they weren't going to manufacture for us. The manufacturer out of Texas was sitting on 35 years of inventory of one wallet style, 25 years of one backpack, one color. So we were kind of stuck, and we were like, all right, we got to figure this out. And actually, in the exact same day that I bought the company and we were thinking about moving it all here, I'd already been coordinating with Georgia and also firing the distribution company in Kentucky. And 2 Mack trucks showed up behind this building on the exact same day. Oh. And we were going to move it into the back of our real estate office, which is a 22 by 22 garage. And I'm like, yeah, that's not even all going to fit. Like, there's no way. So we got in touch with the guy that was trying to sublease the unit next door. We moved in there, and a few months later, we had you guys through, interviewing us for small manufacturer of the year, which was just amazing because, it was from the whirlwind of buying it and setting it up and then figuring out how to do, the marketing and inventory and online sales and manufacturing and hiring,
Well, based on our assessment, you kind of were figuring it out as you went, but you did pretty good. So just for our viewers over there, we actually met Kyle on our manufacturing over the year assessment. And we didn't realize that he actually just purchased the company and we're figuring out stuff with a new business, what he needs to do. So that's into the context. But also for our viewers, how about you just explain what do you guys manufacture?
So the main basis of our manufacturing is products out of fire hose. So we take, we've got, wall hanging American flag art. We've got, wallets and other products that are made out of, whether it's decommissioned from the factory or whether it's decommissioned after use. That gives us our vintage look or the bright new look. And then we've got dog toys, and we've expanded our line over the last year and a half to, add probably another, I'd say 100 plus products. And which has been great because those are the products that we're able to do in-house. Well, the problem that we ran into with the Georgia manufacturing stopping on us and saying that they didn't have time for us because they had too many large military manufacturing contracts was now we had to look at it and say, okay, what can we actually produce and how can we change the backlog that we have of orders So we set up our manufacturing. We figured out the line of products that we were going to be able to produce in-house, and then really just started the team, steamrolling, getting ahead of that, prepping out as much material as they needed, and then, manufacturing schedules per the different lines that match the marketing and advertising team's work, and then rebuilding, rebranding, well, not as much rebranding, but into a new website and new platforms and stuff to try to streamline everything going forward.
Seems like it's a lot of stuff, right? So how did you figure out what to prioritize, how to prioritize? You cannot do everything at the same time. So you must have had some kind of strategy in place, or?
I think a lot of it was kind of a shotgun approach when we first started, but it was get set up, figure out what we can actually do, learn the products, learn how do you take fire hose and, cut it up, and how do you make it into products? How, what additional things can we make? And our manufacturing manager, Noelle goes home at night and she just sits and dreams all night long of fire hose and things she can make out of it. So, she'll come in the following week and say, hey, look, I made a dog toy. And we're all like, well, that's really cool. Like that's a really, great thing. Right. Let's start a whole dog line.
Yeah.
So it's kind of grown and developed like that. But for us to really do the prioritizing, we had to look at that whole inventory backlog issue we had, because we had so many people that wanted products, but we didn't have the capability at that time to make a lot of those products. So we had to either find another US-based manufacturer that would work with us, or, get Texas to start doing other products for us. One thing that did become a great benefit was Georgia actually came back online and turned to us and said, hey, we lost one of our military contracts. If there's any chance you'd be willing to send us some products. And it was on the route that I was up there bringing them, they told me they would fulfill one product we had and make, 1,000 of that one product. So I showed up with 5 boxes to fill that order. And they're like, hey, if there's any chance you could get us more stuff to do, we'd really appreciate it. I said, well, it just happens that my entire truck is full, because I was going to come on bended knee and ask you if you can make the majors and, the dot bags and all these other kits and our ammo bags and things that we were out of stock, but they were huge sellers for us. So they came back online, started doing that. And then just recently they actually went out of business. So sadly, but then now, as you've seen going through the shop over there, we have an entire box truck full of material that I brought. I went up there and bought
equipment,
stuff.
right? You got some equipment too.
Yeah, 12 more sewing machines, and they're all industrial sewing machines, bigger than my desk. And now it's taking that pack space that we're already in of 3,800 square feet and figuring out how we're going to add, 12 more tabletops in there.
And I guess you would be thinking also how to get the capability needed to do those bags, maybe yourself.
The capability is a huge one, because it's the employee base that understands those machines. And even part of the conversation we had with Georgia was, okay, you're a small community, your manufacturing's hurting, manufacturers moving out of your community. What are your sewers doing? Because I bet a lot of them are
maybe they would be
in
willing to
their
relocate.
golden years. Yeah. Maybe they really think it'd be nice to move to Florida and live in the sunny Southwest Florida and come on down. You got a job. So yeah, we kind of played that one back and forth. And
were you able to get anyone, or you're still in the process?
Nobody yet from there. So we are still hopeful. I mean, they're actually still in the process of selling off everything inside the place. So we went up and I picked up that full, box truck full of materials. Yeah. And it was, fabric and buckles and things that we buy for 10 times what they pay for it. So the discount we got on our materials now was amazing. And they've actually told me that once they finish all of their sales, they're going to back up 30-yard dumpsters and throw everything that's left over.
Okay, so maybe some more opportunities or some more material.
I said, you can call me dumpster and I'll be back with a box truck.
Nice. Well, hopefully you're able to get also some of that workforce. Yeah. So would you say workforce is really sounds like a little bit of an issue? I guess it's really any manufacturer I talk to, workforce is also always comes as one of the topics of the top 3 or at least top 3, if not the one problems that we are having here in Southwest Florida.
And ours is a very skilled specific workforce. It's understanding industrial sewing machines. I mean, for myself, I don't even know how to turn the things on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can go over there and clean up and, help them organize things. But if it came to me having to sit behind a machine, they'd have to teach me for a week, and I'd probably sew my hand at a table.
Yeah, do they still, I guess, in technical schools, do they still have those?
They do, and it's actually,
classes?
It's one of the things that we've talked with the SRMA about, because through some of their training grants and things that they have that are available, they would be able to actually get us employees and then run them through full training processes and, other things like that. So, yeah, it's something that Melissa's been communicating with them on.
Should also get you in touch with the Florida Makes apprenticeship program. That could be an opportunity there too.
Yeah.
We're using a provider called Tooling U, and I have all kinds of courses. I bet we have some for, maybe, I can't guarantee it, but maybe we have something specific as what you need.
Yeah.
But something we got to look into maybe later.
Well, it's funny that most of our sewers that have come in were actually brought in to be the stock hands and to be out there prepping materials, cutting things, organizing the shop. And then all of a sudden, Noelle brings them in and she's like, "This is a sewing machine. Sit down. Let me show you how this works." And then all of a sudden, I come back 2 days later and I'm like, "Hey, where'd all the inventory management get to?" She's like, "Yeah, no, I stole your person. They're running a sewing machine now."
Okay.
So it's great.
So you already have this kind of internal program.
Yeah.
I think with the help potentially of Florida Makes, we can help you to make it more official. And we have funding, which usually covers 100% of the program.
Yeah.
So the employees just need to have the willingness to learn.
Yeah,
and get better.
Yeah, so many people do. And one of the things we actually found was we brought in a lot of college students that were, just even coming in as a part-time thing. Yeah. They come in for the entire summer, and, they came in to do something where they'd be, lifting fire hose and organizing in the shop, but then, came in and started doing sewing. And those, one of the fun parts was, one of the girls, she's like a niece to me, and she came in and she was actually, same thing with Jake, because Jake and I have known each other for years now. And for him to see her sewing, making the products of the company that he sold to me, and just seeing that kind of continuing on as a kid that he's known for years. And he came over her shoulder watching her sew together one of the wallets. And he's like, "That's nicer than I would have made it." He's like, "Good job."
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's keep at it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, as far as fire hose, is that mostly your raw material? That's your main raw material?
It is and it isn't, because we have a lot of leather products. And then even in the last run that I did up to Georgia, they had a vast supply of scraps of leathers that were different dye colors, different this, and we got into a little bit of an interesting one, which you probably only get into in Florida, because I've gone gator hunting a few times and processed the entire gator, sent the skin off to Sebring Tannery. You get it back a year later. So, I mean, this is a long drawn out process to go through, but we had one of the hides come back, and just recently we went out there and pressed out some of our Sergeant wallets out of it. And, for anyone that's a leather worker, I mean, this is not the way you would put together leather. You do it the, whole leather working process. I mean, us putting binding around a piece of leather, some people will go, "What did you just do?" But the beauty of it is, I wanted it. I wanted to have my own wallet out of my gator that I had killed. And I snapped a couple pics of it, just shared it on social media. Like, how sweet is this? Like, here's the gator that I killed. And it was like, yep, I want one. When are they going to be in inventory? Can you do it in this color and this color? And with this binding, I want, because so many people, I mean, we sold over 80,000 of those Sergeant wallets. So there's a following of people that if we make it in a different shade and a different color and a different variant, I think we have, I don't know, maybe 70 something variants of that one wallet. We got people that send us pictures of their tabletop with just that wallet laid out all the way across it. I mean, got, every variation that they could pick up over the years. And anytime we do a limited release one, they've got that. So the gator one's kind of cool. And,
would the margins be though, on the gator, would it be more expensive or?
They're definitely more expensive. Yeah. The normal Sergeant wallet is like, $39 to $49. The 49 is the leather version.
Yeah.
And we're doing them out of Gator. We're selling them for, I think it was 95 or something like that.
And the margins justify that still, even though all the work that goes into
it does, because of the fact that not if I had to go out and buy a ton of the stuff. So we're trying to work out something with Sebring, and I've just been in communication with them actually this past week, because I said, hey, when you're selling your spare hides and stuff that, either people didn't claim or anything like that, if they have one that somebody did a really bad job and butchered it while they were cleaning it, the hide still looks good, but it'll have holes throughout it. Well, you can't use that in making, big bags or jackets or, whatever other people want to do with it.
Yeah.
But I'm cutting out a piece that's, 5 inches by 4 inches. So I said, what's your price on some of the stuff that's been clouding up your warehouse for a long time? Because if you can make me a good deal, I'll buy it. That makes sense. Stuff. And, maybe we make some of our other products out of it too. We make the whole Florida, Florida boy line.
I love it.
Or Florida man. Maybe that's
the Florida man line. Yeah.
And one of my buddies is also a python hunter. So we've talked to him about it too. I said, all right, we got to do a, work day where we all go down there and, we'll bring the shop crew down and we'll let everyone go out there and jump on pythons and catch them. And then we'll clean them and have them tanned and make some more wallets.
It'll be good for the environment too. It's an invasive species fight. You'll be doing a service to Florida preserver and in the environment. Plus, you're going to be selling wallets.
And it's a fun story too. I mean, that's the key to it. I mean, Chuck and I took our friend Tito out, and then Jim, the guy that's the python hunter, and
Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, he's got his shop downtown here.
The UFC fighter, retired UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Was he a champion too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, he's got some records for all the championships he's got. So
he's a legend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One of the starters of everything MMA. So, which is great. We all get to go sit down there and watch the MMA fights with them. Yeah. But we've done a lot of hunting and fishing and stuff like that together too. So we had him come out on one of the gator hunts, and I showed you that 10-foot gator skin that's in my truck right now. So
you got it with Tito?
Yeah, that was. And currently the head is sitting in his restaurant at Tito's Cantina. So
where is the restaurant?
Right downtown Cape Coral.
No way. Yeah. Tito is in Cape Coral?
Yep. Yeah, he lives down here. Yeah. He actually came over from Huntington Beach to help out after the hurricane, and then just fell in love with it. And he said, yeah, this is my people. He's like, I need to be over here. So, yeah. And we got to know him through the hurricane and stuff, connecting.
Yeah, because you were in search and rescue, so I bet you were helping during the hurricanes.
More for me, I was cleaning out my own house, and then we started cleaning out neighbors' houses, and then, met Tito through church and through, just getting to know him at the restaurant over the years, and then, went down to help him out as they were, boxing up their place and putting generators in place and running stuff out to his house. And and then it just became a friendship over the years. So, but the gator hunt was a blast. I mean, we got a 10-foot gator, and then that one specifically, we actually got to go back to Gator Raiders where we got it from, and Dave didn't let anybody else do it, but he let us go in his whole cleaning and packing facility and skin it, gut it, cut it, butcher the whole thing. I mean, we cooked it all up on the Traeger, which was delicious, and then we sent the skin off to be tanned, and just got it back recently. So now I'm going to make the 4 guys on that trip a couple of the Sergeant wallets out of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, usually people that hunt, I guess, maybe they do. I mean, I'm not a big hunter myself, but you were saying that you were the only one who asked if you can actually clean it yourself.
Well, it's kind of a nasty animal to cut up, and it is hard to cut. I mean, we had a whole tribe of us in there cutting that thing up, and it took us a whole day. I mean, the group that normally does it, he's got that works in there. I mean, they just do them all the time, so they go through them like nothing. For us, I mean, we didn't want to cut through the hide. We wanted to make sure we did it right. I mean, I'm like a surgeon when I'm cutting out my meat and steaks, and when I, do deer and hog or anything else that I process. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to learn.
So you usually travel when you're hunting, like out of the state, I would assume?
I grew up in Massachusetts and then lived in Michigan.
Yeah.
Shot a lot of deer in both places, and then I've traveled to other states too for hunting, and do a lot of spearfishing too. I mean, that's one of the gators up there, and hog, and I've got a big tuna head that's getting cleaned up by a local guy too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
I love it.
So did you watch UFC 250?
Yeah.
Yeah. With Tito or?
Yeah. No, I didn't make it down to watch it with him. It would have been a blast because they had a big party down there, but yeah.
No, they made it was like once in a lifetime event.
Yeah.
I like how it was historical and the soldiers. It was amazing. The show.
They did a great job with it.
Good fights too.
Yeah. And the main card fight was
wow.
Crazy.
I was hoping this is going to happen. So the American is going to win, right? But
I put $100 on it, so I was glad it happened.
But he was like 1 to 6 underdog, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good 4 or 5 to 1 odds. So
yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
So how do business in Florida, in Cape Coral? Do you see yourself staying here?
I do.
Do you think it's a good move to stay here? And
mine's the two sides of it. For me, I've got the manufacturing piece, but I'm more in the real estate side.
Yeah.
So which the two pieces dovetail together. I have a hard time finding workforce because a lot of the workforce can't afford to stay in Cape Coral. The prices go up, and then they all have to move out and move to other communities. And my goal is building workforce housing. So we've got 4 projects that are currently in site plan approval in Cape Coral. It'll be around 400 units in total. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was thinking that Cape Coral is actually one of the more affordable places in Florida, right? It's not anymore.
No.
Wow. Because that's what I'm hearing in Sarasota. It's not like Naples. Usually you have people that work in Naples actually coming from Cape Coral sometimes. But I guess even Cape Coral is
yeah. Well, and you've got kind of a trickle down effect to that, where you've got the people from Cape Coral are working in Naples, but the people that are they're working in Cape Coral are living in Lehigh or other communities that are further away. So everybody has an hour commute, where if you can build workforce housing in those local communities, you create the bubble where someone can work and live within that space.
That'd be perfect.
And you reduce traffic.
Yeah.
Instead of having someone drive an hour down to Naples, put workforce housing down in Naples and let the people live and work down there. It's hard in some communities because they've got so many restrictions, but Live Local was actually the reason that got me back into doing this stuff, because DeSantis put in place Live Local, and I sat reading the bill and I read through it like 4 times, and I'm like, there's no way that this is real. This is like a developer's dream come true if people can actually see everything that's in this. And I do, and I did see it, and I've spoke at the Florida Housing Commission's conference that they had last year, and then spoke at a couple of other BizNow events and things like that, where just trying to open people's eyes up to what that did and what that made available in workforce housing, where you get to skip so much red tape and jump through.
That's a big thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, to build multifamily housing in Cape Coral, normally you're putting 16 units on an acre. Well, Live Local comes through, and now we can put 125 units on an acre.
So what's Live Local? Can you explain a little more about that? Yeah.
And Live Local is a bill that DeSantis put in place. It's been a few years now. And essentially it takes all the regulations for that city and says, if whatever they have is their highest occupancy rate that's available anywhere within that community, you can now take that and move it on any commercial property. You don't even have to be on a property that's a residential property. So normally you've got to get, some sort of multifamily residential, property, or do a PUD or something like that, so you can build a development plan, unit development. Live Local broke through all of that. Essentially, you walk to the city and you say, hey, I bought this 1 acre parcel. I've got this building set to go on it. It's 70 units over the top of 1 floor of commercial, because for Cape Coral, you have to still keep the mixed use component, which I love. So like I've got 1 building right now that's going to be a 6-story building with 70 apartments over 8,300 square feet of commercial on a parcel that was just commercial. So for us to buy enough land to do that as a developer, I would have had to spend $6 million.
Yeah.
Where I bought a commercial parcel that was an outlot sitting there as a loaner because it's up against residential, and it's one of the D locations for commercial. But when you can now make it into mixed use, and put that many units on it, and you buy the land for $400,000 instead of $4 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So it creates great margins. And then there's just layers and layers and layers of benefits that you get, tax benefits and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I could teach for hours on Live Local. I love the topic.
And do you see a lot of people taking advantage of that, or builders?
You do. It's slow to roll out. Plus, it's also hit the economic slowdown that we just ran into. So it came out in perfect timing for people to start changing the path of what they were doing. But there were so many large scale, PUD developments in place that the glut hit the market before the timing could really get into it, where people would do a lot more with the Live Local projects, where now, if we can shine a light on it and people can see, don't do 600 units, do 40 units and 60 units and 70 units and 30 units, and do, micro locations in and around a community where you have a mixed use. You got
like light manufacturing, industrial stuff, or
it depends upon where you're at. Like the one I have downtown Cape Coral on a vacant lot right on the main parkway. So it'll be 3 stories of executive office suites. So over 100 units, and then 4 stories of apartments on.
Yep.
It's a 77,000 square foot building on a 0.3 acre parcel. So, I mean, it's a postage stamp, but we can go lot line to lot line because it abuts the Big John parking lot. And now you build something that's greatly needed downtown, because the value basis of how I was able to buy the land with how many units I can put into it because of Live Local and because of the several other great zoning things that the city of Cape Coral has in place downtown. You couple it all together and you just start weaving the web of, well, if we take this plus this plus this,
interesting.
Well, now we can build this monster building that nobody thought could go there,
So you see the city is being actually helpful with all that?
Yeah. The city manager here is great. Really wants to see the development. Really would love to see more of the industrial. One of the visions that they had, I want to say it was 3 years ago, I sat down with Amy Yearsley, the city planning manager, and I said, what do you guys want? And she's like, well, no one will build mixed use. She says, it's just not a code, not a product that anyone's cracked within the city where they say, okay, we'll take the commercial, we'll put commercial on the first floor, we'll put residential above. I said, well, that's silly. I mean, to me, it makes total sense. And then fast forward a couple months later, Live Local comes out, and I'm reading the bill, and I'm sitting there, and I'm in one of the meetings that they had were over at Collaboratory, and everyone has the community question time. Everyone starts throwing questions and answers out. And I said, I got a really interesting question for you guys, because the big problem in doing workforce housing is NIMBYism. And it also gets, shut off and stopped because so many people come out and picket and fight and go to the city and say, don't approve this horrible project. Like, you guys have all been served up the greatest thing ever because you don't have an option anymore. Live Local literally ties your hands. I mean, it makes this project 100% approved from the day it's put down, and it also gets fast-tracked as if it's a nonprofit. So it gets expedited approvals through everything. And, it's this all great new system where it's like you get the best of everything that's available anywhere in the city, and you get to put it on some of the unused, cheapest land that's sitting there, giving back the commercial, which wasn't being built, plus putting up the workforce housing, which is one of the biggest needs in our communities.
Wow. It's like a win-win-win, right? But
and then I can move some more workers in.
Yeah. But it still takes time for you to get it all set.
Well, does it ever? Yeah. And then you still, the city's great and the city's working with you, but you still run into stuff. We went for a year on the downtown project and then got right to the finish line, and they were like, hey, we just found something that we didn't even realize was in the the new change codes, and now you have to replat the property, and it's going to take you another 8 months to a year. It's like, that would have been great to have known a year ago, because we would have had that all done today.
That's painful. And all the resources that you're allocating to that, right?
Yeah. But the beauty is, I get to spend half my time going in that direction. I get to spend my other half of my time doing manufacturing and Recycled Firefighter. Yeah.
So back to manufacturing. What's your kind of main challenges? I mean, workforce, yes, but anything else that is kind of a hurdle that you're trying to overcome?
I think that the inventory piece was one that we've spoken a little bit about because we had so many products being made by large manufacturers where we had these huge shop in Georgia. Well, now they're out of business, and they were making, a couple thousand bags at a time for us. If we were sending them, a wallet to make, we could have them make 5,000 of them. The same thing out of Texas. Now, a lot of them are scaling back, out of business, or changing their lines. Some of them are moving to shipping products to be sewn overseas. And it kind of breaks for us where we're trying to be 100% U.S. manufacturer. We're trying to manufacture everything in-house that we can. And it's one of the challenges that we're currently looking at. Do we stop making backpacks altogether? Because the cost for me to have them made in the United States gives me such a low profit margin that it doesn't even make sense for us to spend the time doing it and the capital outlay and then the amount of inventory too. So yeah, it's definitely been one of our challenges is looking at our line of materials we have, figuring out what we have the capacity for, what we can find the capacity to make it. And then looking at the other side of that and saying, okay, if the team's not going to be making this, what else do we make? So we started making a rollout rifle mat with a bag attached to it. And we just launched a bunch of those for Father's Day. Okay. Work mats that are made out of the fire hose, dock bumpers that'll have grommets in them so you can screw them to the docks when you're coming with your boat, hit the piling, you rub on a piece of fabric, which is pretty nearly indestructible. So it makes a lot of great uses. The dog toys, we've constantly evolved those as we've, had them go through different owners over the time, giving us different recommendations and saying, hey, what about trying this? What about trying this? What about making the loops bigger so you can, you can wrestle with your dog? It's been line management, I would say, is kind of one of the.
So figuring out which inventory to carry, that's the big challenge right now.
And the piece in that too is which inventory to carry that we can effectively build and that we can build enough procedures within our own shop where, we're able to build, say, 100 at a time of a product or 20 of a certain duffel bag because it'll get us to an availability where the team's not just grabbing one thing, sewing it, shipping it, grabbing one thing, sewing it, shipping it. I mean, the ineffectiveness of that and the efficiency loss was it's been really hard on the team next door when they were just essentially a contract sew shop because all the material we had coming in from the large manufacturing companies dried up and we still had people wanting and ordering things. So we said, all right, can you make this? Can you make this? And they're like, yeah, we can make that. Oh, we love this. We can make that. Well, now they're making too many things.
That's a challenge. So I think you need to really strategically think which products you want to keep that make sense right now based on your capability of the workforce and the space, and scale those products, and then expand and potentially add more products.
We went through our website and we scaled back our products. We took a lot of the stuff off the market, the backpack lines that we knew we weren't going to be able to do. Once we sold through the remaining inventory in a, specific size and whatever of a backpack, we took it off the market completely. So many manufacturers that I talked to, and even, McNeese Knives, another contractor, it's, we've started, looking at their products and the cross promotion possibilities with knife makers and other things that, we can all kind of help each other in the sales of our products because, we have EDC style stuff. They're the knife companies. You talk to somebody else, it's a flashlight. We've got, Polka pens, which are a pen that's a little book and a half pen that we keep in our pocket, So every one of those little things, we kind of work with all of them. And in speaking with, McNeese and some of the other boutique manufacturers, you look on their site and it's out of stock, 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 flip the next page, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. And I'm like, what is it? Why? And he's like, well, it's demand. I mean, realistically, you still have the products available, but when you put 20 in stock, gone. I mean, he just launched a knife and they literally sold out. I think he said he made 20 something of them. And they were this beautiful 250 engraved, American flag on them. I mean, they were exquisite and they sold out in like 15 minutes.
That's incredible. I mean, it's funny. You can't even get a USA team shirt right now. Did you hear? In the World Cup? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to manage our inventory better.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I understand
even the big
that.
manufacturers. Right?
Yeah, because even for those big manufacturers, how much stuff should they set up? How many do they make? Because even for us, we started doing a Betsy Ross flag. We're stamping 250 in the center of the Betsy Ross, and it's beautiful and it's great. And it's like, okay, we have 1,000 of the standard American flag.
Yeah.
Do we do the same thing with a 250 flag? Because you expect this mass run on it. Well, we expected a mass run on the standard flag, and we had that inventory now for a year, and we sell it, but we realize we now have a 10-year inventory of that one flag.
And that's the challenge that a lot of manufacturers are having. They cannot produce enough of the products that actually sell, but they produce too much of the products that don't sell. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. And that's, I think, the theory of constraints, the founder of theory of constraint, Eli Goldratt, they really figured out a way of how to manage inventory, this dynamic buffer replenishment or management.
I got that written down.
What I was saying. I think that's really the key of how you approach the market. And when you have new products coming out, how many and how you build a buffer management system so that you have proactive signals coming through the supply chain so that you know when you need to pull the trigger and when you don't need to pull the trigger. More importantly, when you don't need to pull the trigger.
When you don't's that key. Yeah. So one of the things that we thought through is we said, okay, what's our client acquisition cost? And if we look at our marketing and everything we got, our acquisition cost on a single client is $40. And we said, okay, what do we have in overstock of products? So we sell a Sergeant wallet for $39. We manufacture a lot cheaper than that. And when Jake was getting it manufactured in Texas, they were manufacturing thousands at a time. So the cost basis on them is very low.
Yeah.
So obviously if we're selling at $39, we're not at a cost basis of $40, which is our cost to get a client. Mm-hmm. So we started a program where we've got a lot of fire departments that reach out to us and they say, hey, we've got, decommissioned bunker gear, whatever. When you walked in today, you literally tripped over 5 totes that are sitting in the front because a department that's 3 hours north got in touch with Chuck and said, hey, we've got all this stuff. We'd love to give it to you if you guys would be interested in making us a couple of things out of it. Mm-hmm. And we said, yeah, we'll make you, Sergeant wallets or tote bags or, one of our roll top, duffels or we make you American flag if we've got the right amount of colors within hoses you have. And they've got some large dimension hoses that they're going to be decommissioning here off one of their trucks. And they're going to drive it all down here to us again. And we send them back with a Sergeant wallet for every single guy in their fire department. We put a business card inside of it that says, welcome to the Recycled Fire, family. We're excited to have you here. Just so you know, because you're in the service, if you're police, fire, EMT, veterans, everybody gets 30% off on our product forever. You do your ID me in the cart. We're so glad you're here. Please take this wallet as our welcome to the family. And awesome. We've got these departments all over the country now that Chuck's connecting with that previously had been like, hey, we're having an event. We've got this, fundraiser we're doing. Any chance you could send us something? And I'm like, well, Chuck, we've got 800 of that one backpack that, we know we have a 7-year inventory on. Let's send them one of the backpacks, which is a great, great product because we know we can't sell through that many that fast. And that'll be their, $250 raffle prize in their event. But then also ask them how many guys are in their department and send one Sergeant wallet for every single guy. And now we've got something in the hand of every single one of those guys to say, hey, here we are. This is what we do. Yep. And new clients that message us and say, man, we love your stuff. We were just showing it to the chief. He was so excited. We're like, how many guys in the department? Love to send you, one wallet for every single one of the guys. So it helps us with the stuff where I want to say in inventory, we have 15,000 Sergeant wallets. So there's quite a few.
Yeah.
And it's something we sold 80,000 of. So we know that, and that's across multiple colors. Like I told you, there's, 60 something variants of that one product.
Yeah.
So,
these guys moved.
Yeah. But it's been fun learning the little pieces like that too, that when you're dealing with inventory management, you run into a kink. It's like, okay, what can we do that's going to help us on the other side where we're having trouble? Because meta advertising is one of the worst things in the world. And here we are doing so much.
What advertising?
Meta advertising.
Like Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram. And that was the main spot that Jake was doing all of his advertising and, client and everything. I mean, he spent anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 a year in meta advertising. So yeah, huge. I mean, when Zuckerberg, put in a bunch of money for the inauguration of Trump and it was like $1 million donated, I'm like, hey, we paid for half of that. So
that's insane.
But we spend so much money over there. So that's one of the issues we had that we dialed back on, which has also it changed the metrics from the last year that Jake had owned the company to where we were in revenue for the year. But he had spent an extra $400,000 on marketing and advertising. We brought the budget down to $50,000 for last year. So although we were $300,000 less in revenue, we were $400,000 less in expenses. So we actually turned the tide on it and then changed.
So your EBITDA numbers probably go better.
Yeah. And then we changed pricing and we changed all kinds of stuff. So
are you thinking of any expansion plans for Recycled Firefighter, or for now you're happy with this location, or really what's your vision for the next, I don't know, maybe 3 years for Recycled Fire? Where do you see yourself go?
I would say right now we're probably on a 1-year plan of making sure that we figure out the current space that we're in. And the piece that I look at and say, how can we free up space next door, which could just be the manufacturing, would be to then move the, distribution piece into another location. The unit on the other side of us, which, as we heard earlier, they're in there, banging on the walls or remodeling it. So we had actually even thought, what if we just take all of the, finished inventory, move it into a new location, do distribution out of there. It would give us another garage space, which would be great because we've got, 40 something pallets of fire hose. So
also ideally would be in the same building, right?
And in the same building would be ideal because as they're manufacturing stuff, we want to be able to efficiently get it to where it's going to be distributed from. And a lot of the times they really are doing manufacturing for shipments. We'll get something that comes in and we've had, 1 or 2 of a product left over and the marketing team does a great marketing campaign over the weekend and 10 of them sell. And now all of a sudden they come in first thing Monday morning, like you saw as you were over there today, and they have to tear that whole place apart because they're doing piece of this and piece of that and piece of this and piece of that. And
so that's something you probably want to control a little better, so that you don't have to scramble, because the amount of capacity you're wasting really, instead of going by plan, that's really the capacity you don't want to waste.
So a little piece that we worked into that is I told them, anytime they have to do that and they have to stop what they're working on, because if they're working on something, we tell them that you have, depending upon what the product is, there's an X amount that's your minimum you can do, because you don't want them having to go get something, come back, create one, get something, go back, do one. And my cost base is more than that one product's worth. So for some of them, the minimum was 10. For some of them, the minimum is 20. So if they're making a specific Sergeant wallet, it's like, great, make 20 of that wallet. They can do that quickly. They get it done. It all goes into inventory and they continue on with what they're doing. So we said, anytime you have something that comes in that's a sale item that is like, okay, you have to change and go to do that one product, they do have a couple of days. So we tell them, finish the one you're on. Like, don't just leave a product mid manufacturing. Once you get that one done, you can go and swap to that specific product, but you have the same scale in place. You have to do 10 or 20 or whatever carries, so that now that thing's restocked, and then that one product is not an issue the next time it comes through. And then as they do that and they catch all those little tiny holes, we know that the next 6 months is going to be a slow move for us in the manufacturing piece, because we're trying to take up what Georgia wasn't able to do. We're trying to take up what we couldn't get manufactured elsewhere and fill in all those holes. So we're doing it in ways where we can't just say we're going to manufacture 500 of something and fill one specific item, but we can do 20 of that item, 20 of that item, and 20 of that item, and then circle back as the items start to sell through.
Yeah. A lot of moving pieces, sounds like.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I'm still thinking that the Georgia location went out of business as soon as it seems like things started to move smoothly.
Yeah, they had just gotten moving. And
that was a surprise.
I had just shipped them up 2 full pallets of material, and they, I got in touch with them and said, "Hey, when you guys shipping stuff back?" And they said, "Yeah, we got the pallets loaded." And then the guy Marcus that ran their shipping department sent me the, inventory of what was on the pallets, and I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you guys missed a step. This is everything I sent you. You forgot to get it into the shop for them to sew it." And he's like, "Oh man, nobody told you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, told me what?" He said, "Yeah, we're going out of business, shipping it all back to you now." So that was all product that we had already created advertising and marketing and had built out, because we knew that ammo bags and majors and mine and all these different products that are something that are so hot for people that we didn't have the capacity for, we were just about to get them back. And now we got them back, and we don't have the capacity to do it, and we don't have anybody else to do it. So then we went back up and bought all the machines to do it.
Yeah.
And now we just have to figure out how to run them.
And now you'll do it yourself. Well, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be even a better story.
Yeah. Yeah, it will. It's, the snags along the way have been part of what's going to build the story out for how this thing has grown and moved and developed.
Yep. No, that's great. Oh, amazing story. So if you were to give some advice to manufacturers here in Southwest Florida, or maybe even young people that are, figuring out what careers they want to take, what path they want to go on, what advice would you give?
I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm always like, dive in both feet. You'll figure it out when you're running.
Yeah.
Put the tires on the bus as rolling down the hill. But the big thing is having great people around you. I mean, and getting to know you guys and SRMA and the SBDC and the other groups, SCORE was another one. Having a mentor come in and sit down and say, "Hey, you got a lot going on. You're focusing on too many different things, trim your focus to this and this and this, and, try to just work on this piece. And I love where you're going with this. Now do this, this, and this over here." Because for me, when you're at an executive level too, in other companies, and they try to add something in, you can either split yourself or you can grow. And in bringing on, new parts of our team, and then moving people that were on one team over to be the leads in the other team, I think I would say too that as you're building out your team, do a lot of culture building. That's one of the big parts that we really learned. I mean, a lot of the books that we've got up here, Lencioni's The Advantage, and, learn the mindsets of your people, because as we built out, we didn't really have that in place yet. But then Corey, who's a pastor at our church, does a lot of leadership training, and he came in and did the leadership class for our team. And he said, "Okay, here's the way you think, here's the way you think, here's the way you think." And there's a reason that Chuck is so good at what he does, because he's the wonder, and he's this piece. And then Melissa over here is your, operations, she's very detail focused like this. And then for me, the discernment and the, other gifts that I have that put me at the one side of it, where then we look at all the team going down from there, and we ran them all through the assessment too. And it was like, oh, it makes sense. Like, we've got the inventor over here. We've got the person over here that'll lock down and get any job done you give them. Well, that's because of the specific, personality traits that they have. I think that's actually been one of the best things for us, because then we also knew what to take back from certain employees.
Yeah, that's key, right?
Because you put somebody in a place because you think, hey, we need to move somebody up, and, you're standing close enough to it that you should be the next one to move. But it might not be the move for that person.
Yep.
And it'll hinder you. It'll hinder the business. It'll hinder the productivity of that person. It'll actually cause them to go backward instead of going forward into the position that they're supposed to do. So yeah, it's been a beautiful thing. It's something that I've learned over many, many years, but in different realms of it through the other companies I've owned, to then take that and learn a whole different structure to it, and then put it through to the manufacturing and the different companies that I own, and then go, oh, well, we were actually pretty good with who we put in a lot of the positions. We had to move, a couple little pieces off of people and put it on to someone else, because you'd tell someone, hey, remember, you got to get this done. And you could see the soul sucked out of them. And it's like, you don't like to do that piece? And they're like, no, God, I hate that. And the other person over there is like, oh, could I do that? And you're like, well, you like to do that? oh, you're gifted for that. That matches your this,
Mm-hmm.
this, and this. So we'd swapped around a couple of the pieces, and man, the team just they start singing at that point. So yeah, know your team really, to me, is the big.
Absolutely. You got to know your people. You got to know your team. You got to know, is it the right person and are they sitting in the right seat? And once you know those things.
And then find the people that can fill in the parts that you have no idea what they're talking about. That you're like, oh, you got to, spell out an acronym. And I'm like, I don't know what you just said. Like, you're like, yeah, it's this. And I'm like, I got to get a pen. Like, okay. And where do I find that? And how do I learn more about that? Yeah. So it's learning your own deficiencies too. And for me, that's been one of the keys throughout this is I know the faults and I know the flaws that I have and I know the holes that I have and things that I don't do well. So actually one of the crazy things recently has been putting AI into those holes.
Yeah.
We brought Claude work, the co-work into it. And I mean, I literally got 2 years worth of work done in the last month that we've started implementing.
That is amazing, right?
Yeah. And the inventory management that it's done. I mean, we said, okay, look at all of our products over the last 13 years and build us out, a heat map to tell me, what's been selling, what hasn't been selling, what we have too much inventory and what we should be building up inventory in. And then even go back and tell us what products do we miss right now that Jake used to sell years ago. And it was like, oh, you're missing this variant and this variant. He sold, 15,000 of this and 25,000 of this. And we're like, oh, cool. Hey, can you guys make 100 of these and 100 of these? They put them on and all of a sudden it was like, bing, 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 things start selling.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's great that you're optimizing AI. You have to, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some people say, well, I'm afraid or I'm not sure about. Well, you're going to stay behind if you don't use it.
Well, I say, oh, yeah. But a month ago, I would have been like, man, I'm good. Yeah, I ask Chad every now and then, what's the best restaurant to go to?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to tell it everything else, right? No, Claude, I'm literally like, all right, buddy, you got it, go. Open my computer up and I'm like, his name's Bob. That's my, term for any of my AI assistants. So it took me a while to convince him. He's like, no, my name's Claude. I'm like, listen, it's a term of endearment. Everybody in the office knows Bob is the one that gets everything done for me, other than amazing team. But I say, hey, Bob, good morning. How's it going? Like, he's like, great. What are we doing today? What are we getting after? It's like your own little motivation coach in the day too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I think we had a great conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate getting to see you again. And